Oh boy, I am releasing 2 videos in one day because Sigma Canada sent over 2 lenses in one day. This one here is the Sigma Art 20mm f1.4. The one you're looking at is the Sigma Art 24mm f1.4, and I figure I'll compare this guy to my beloved G Master 24mm 1.4. I said 1.4 a lot in that last sentence, and that is a good thing, so let's talk about it. Okay, so first of all, I'm supposed to be on vacation in Newfoundland, but are you ever really on vacation when you have 2 young children? When Sigma said, we have these lenses available, but it's only when you're on vacation, I said, send it over. I will ruin my family's trip to do some camera tests for you guys. They're off at a fair with a friend of mine. They're having a great time, and so am I. And let me just start with the price. Normally, I don't start with prices, but I really think that this is a major factor here. With the 24mm Sigma Art 1.4, I have been told, look in the description for when the lens is fully released, because I'm recording this before the actual release date. They say it's going to be $7.99 USD. This is what I've been told. If that is true, that is bonkers, all right? Because my G Master 24mm 1.4, which I love, and that lens is a $1,400 at B&H right now. $1,400, $7.99. I mean, okay, so now that that is out of the way and you realize you can get a really great lens for $7.99, let's talk about the pros and the cons of this guy. And we'll do some comparisons to my 24mm G Master. And I use that G Master a lot in my studio, so let's just go there first. I recorded this before I got on the plane. I've had a hectic couple of days. Anyway, here is the 24 against the 24 in the studio. And so this is my 24mm G Master all the way down at 1.4, because why not? Let's compare the lenses wide open, shall we? While we have the opportunity. Plus, it makes these lights seem like they're further away when really they're not far away at all. I can touch them, but you get enough blur, huh? It looks like they're in the distance back there. Who knows what other treasures, like this. Where is it? I'm looking at my monitor and I keep switching my hands. This disgusting mess down there, that is a bunch of garbage. But right now it's blurry garbage. And now we're on the 24mm Sigma Art lens 1.4 at 1.4 here. And I actually had to white balance it differently. Well, I just manually white balanced it, but the Sigma is 5100. When I white balance the G Master, it is 5500 with nothing changing here with my lights. So there's definitely a difference in the color temperature of the lenses. So, you know, you want to factor, you always should be manually white balancing anyway. So is the garbage over here, is it better than it is on the G Master or the same? Worse? This Sigma Art lens looks to me as good as that 24, certainly, and it's actually a little bit wider. Even without focus breathing compensation on in the Sony lens, the Sigma lens is a touch wider. I would say it's more like a 23mm, or maybe the Sony is more like a 25mm. Either way, this lens is a little bit wider. And since I use the 24mm a lot for vlogging, let's go out and take this setup vlogging, and we'll compare the 2 lenses that way. And now we have the active stabilization on the A7 IV with the Sigma 24mm Art 1.4. I'm at 1.4, huh? Normally I would do f2.0, but right now it's getting late. And really, are you complaining with what you're seeing? Hopefully you're watching this on an 80-inch television screen. Hi, how are you? Coming right into your living room. Look at this. This is a pretty good focal length for vlogging, I must say. I use my 24mm G Master all the time for this. In fact, let's switch that over now. Now here's my 24mm G Master. I'm on active steady shot, again on the A7 IV. Now, because I have lens breathing compensation on, chances are it has cropped in a tiny bit yet again for the 24mm G Master. So maybe I should turn that off so we can get an apples to apples comparison. Hold on. So now I turned off the lens breathing compensation. Did that make any difference at all? Also, do you see any lens breathing? You know, like maybe I don't need that lens breathing compensation on at all. when I'm vlogging, and that way I'll get a bit of a wider field of view. If you have things coming in and out of your frame, you'll probably see some focus breathing, but since you're really just focused on my pretty face here, chances are, and I'm not moving around a ton, chances are I don't really need the lens breathing compensation. Anyway, this is the comparison between the 24mm G Master and the Sigma Art 1.4, the new Sigma. And now here we have the 24mm Sigma Art lens, and we're using Catalyst Browse here just to show you what it looks like when you run it through Catalyst Browse. You definitely get enough of a field of view back there. Sure, it's super blurry. I'm wide open here because why not? It's dusk, and I don't need you to see anything other than my face. Do you know what I mean? That is the best way to do a vlog. Just blur. Nothing but creamed corn back there. It's the way I like it. Me and Tony. Now the lens is super sharp. It renders photos beautifully. I traveled around wonderfully gorgeous St. John's here, and it's uncharacteristically sunny, and I took some photos of the colorful landscape around here, and as you can see, the photos just come out magnificent. I mean, I know some of it is me because I'm an amazing photographer, but the lens really held up great with my Sony a7 IV and its 33 megapixel sensor. The autofocus is amazing. It is dead silent. It is instantaneous in both photos and videos. Chromatic aberration is well controlled. Longitudinal chromatic aberration is also well controlled. The 24mm G Master may be a hair sharper at wide open at 1.4, a little tiny bit sharper in the center and a little tiny bit sharper in the corners, but the Sigma lens is so ridiculously sharp, I can't complain. Flaring and ghosting, Sigma worked really hard on the flaring and ghosting, and this thing is fantastic for flaring and ghosting, especially for a wide angle lens. And if you use the lens hood, it's even better. But since this lens and this lens here that I'll be talking about are geared a little bit, not a little bit, they're geared a nice bit towards astrophotography. People who like astrophotography are going to love these lenses. Then they wanted to get any kind of ghosting and flaring and chroma smearing down to a minimum, and they definitely did that. Oh, and speaking of astrophotography, check this out right here. You see that little slot there? That is a space for a sheet filter. So you can put regular filters on the front of the 24mm and of course the 20mm. I in fact have an ND filter on right now because I am getting the maximum amount of bokeh that I can at 1.4, and that is not just because I love Tony Northrup, it's also because I want to see how the focus breathing does when stopped down to the 1.4. I know it's a shame you don't get to see this picturesque fence in all its glory, but this is what we're doing for the tests. You know, you have to make sacrifices, like I'm sacrificing my family's vacation. Anyway, a sheet filter can go on the back, and that can really help astrophotography. You can combine the two filters, in fact. They really are looking out for the photographers and the astrophotographers with, well, I was going to say this lens, but this lens here too. And I would say it's a photography first lens, and it does do a great job, as you have been watching with video, as you're watching right now. But the problem with it is the focus breathing. There is a noticeable amount of focus breathing on the Sigma Art 24 1.4. Now there is also a nice bit of focus breathing on my G Master f1.4. But the thing is with the G Master, if you have a Sony a7 IV like I do, you can turn on focus breathing compensation. And although it crops in a little bit and your lens is more now like a 26mm lens, there is zero focus breathing. So if you are going to be using this Sigma lens for a lot of long focus pulls, then you are going to see that focus breathing when you are doing video. And also when it comes to stacking photos in Photoshop, if you want to blend them that way and you want to focus very close to infinity and you're taking a bunch of photos, you are going to have to make those corrections and adjustments in post, which you can do, but it's just an extra couple of steps when you have a lens that focus breathes. And although they're pretty comparable in size, the Sony G Master is a little bit smaller and lighter. It is 445 grams, and the Sigma, the E mount, is 510 grams, and the L mount is 520 grams. I don't know why they gave them an extra 10 grams of goodness, but I want that for my Sony. I'm kidding, the lighter the better. Now you are going to see a little bit of vignetting wide open, but that pretty much clears up at about f2, certainly f2.8. It has so many switches and buttons. Here, look, I can show you this, and I'll also do the slow-mo thing where I show it all. It's just they have the same ones on each guy, but I'll read them off this lens. You got autofocus, manual focus, focus, hold button. You have an aperture ring, which is clicky or not clicky, and you can actually lock it. You can put it in into the automatic mode and then lock it so it doesn't switch anymore. You won't be able to pull it out of that A mode, which is a nice touch. And then there is a switch that is brand new, and this is manual focus lock, and that thing is great, especially for the astrophotography people. So a lot of times when you're doing the astrophotography, what you want to do is set your focus to infinity. So you put it in manual focus, set it to infinity, but the thing is, you don't want that to adjust after that. You know, what if something touches the lens? What if you move it by accident? And you want to take one of those long exposures. All that stuff counts. So you just lock, manual focus lock, and now when you turn the ring, it won't change focus. So it stays in manual focus, but then doesn't move. Isn't that great? And then when you want to get the ring back to make your adjustments, you can just turn that switch right off. I mean, that's also super useful for video when you want to lock in on a manual focus, and then you know, when you're looking through your camera there and you accidentally move that ring and you ruin your focus in the middle of a shot. No more with these lenses. So thanks to Sigma Canada once again for sending over these absolutely fantastic lenses that come in at fantastic prices. And while you're here, why don't you watch the other video that I did on the 20mm art lens f1.4. All right, it's time to go back to my family. We'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.